I don't believe that this could have been a drunk accident. She was severely intoxicated. Didn't ever see her with Sammy. She did mention having a ride.
These partygoers are the key to determine what happened.
Over 200 people were at the party, and this is the second partygoer that has come forward to tell me their side of the story. Let's name this second partygoer Jane Doe number 2. My deepest condolences to Kiley's family and friends. Due to privacy reasons, their voice has been altered, and their name will remain anonymous.
There were around 200 people. It's not very usual to see this at a party, especially at Sanctuary, because the road is so rough. People hate partying out there. I never saw anyone sketchy show up. I never noticed anyone sketchy while I was there. I definitely never saw Jagger there. I don't think he was there at all. When I spoke to Kiley, she was intoxicated, but she seemed happy. There was nobody there in wet clothes. They would have frozen so badly. It was raining all day that day. It was cold out. I don't know about the shrooms. I don't smoke or trip on substances, so I don't really look for them. I do believe she was intoxicated before 11. The girls in the black and white photo were in Reno, not Prosser, and I know this for sure because I am friends with the one that took the photo. I don't know about Sammy and Kiley's relationship. I never saw Kiley fight anyone, but the fight that was on video was a playful fight. I know those boys. I didn't see Kiley drink or smoke, but she did smell strongly of alcohol and was having a hard time walking straight, and her speaking was slow. I don't believe that this could have been a drunk accident, honestly. Sanctuary Road can be impossible to drive on, especially with how intoxicated she seemed when I talked to her. Just a week before, a kid had high-centered his truck on the road, so it's not an easy one to navigate, like even sober. And I don't know anything going on between Kate and Jagger. I tend to stay out of people's personal relationships just because it isn't my business. I had personally seen Kiley around that night, but I also didn't ever see her with Sammy. And Sammy didn't even actually host the party. It was 3 boys from the area, one from Incline, one North Tahoe, and one Truckee. And the Truckee boy actually had work that night, so I don't think he was there. I never ended up seeing him. I'm from Truckee, I know this boy well, but I don't remember seeing him. When I spoke to Kiley that night, she was severely intoxicated. Like, she had been stumbling, her speech was slurring. But I also don't know her well, so I don't know her normal behavior. I'd only seen her around and maybe spoken to her once or twice at things like parties. Other than that, I never really saw her. She did go to a different school than me. She did mention having a ride, but she was alone and it was dark when I talked to her. People have also commented about kids not seeing things, and the moon was bright that night, but Sanctuary is under trees. And I had a hard time seeing because the generator that was running the lights had turned off or gone home earlier, so I personally couldn't see very much. That night, people began to show up around 9. It was a small group of people that I knew. I wasn't close with any of them, but I knew them, so I was happy they came, and I felt comfortable around them. Around 10, a huge group of people showed up. A friend of mine was leading them. She said, "I don't know any of these kids, but they were all down on the road by the intersection because they had no clue where to go, so I led them to the right place." My guess is that these kids must have not been from Truckee, and they were from the Tahoe region, around Incline mostly, and maybe some North Tahoe kids, because most Truckee and a lot of North Tahoe kids know where Sanctuary is because it is a popular spot for us. I noticed that a lot of people have commented that there aren't many photos and videos from that night, and it's true. A lot of kids up here don't spend their time on their phones at parties. I personally never noticed a whole lot of kids on their phones other than when people were like taking B-reels or just taking random pictures. but most of the time it's like 0.5s of their friends' faces, like funny stuff like that, not anything like crazy that actually shows the party. Like, I know I personally don't take pictures of parties in general. Around 10:30 there were glow sticks all over the ground. That was one thing that I noticed because a boy had brought them earlier in the night and people were like putting them on, all this stuff, but they had started to fall off people. The glow sticks I had fell off, so I was putting them in bottles and like setting the bottles places. A lot of kids also started to pick up the glow sticks and throw them at each other, which was making some people really mad. There's also been a lot of talk about the fight that was shown on the news from that night. You can see in the picture I'm going to send you of the invitation that was sent out that night, the background of it is a picture of a fight from earlier this year at a party, because they're very common up here. People always bring boxing gloves to parties and friends box each other for fun, but it's always friends. Like, there's never any ill intention in these matches. There are always kids mediating these box fights and are there to break them up if they need to, and there's always the biggest rule during these is you're not allowed to hit the other person in the head or the face, just because we don't actually want anyone getting injured. Like, I've personally been in a boxing match with a friend just for fun, and I didn't want to hurt her, it was just for fun. At 12:30, the crowd had shrunk a lot. I didn't know almost anyone there other than like a couple friends and my ride home, and a boy had pulled his car onto the dirt road, like the main road to get in and out of Sanctuary, and there were boys yelling and screaming at each other like in an aggressive way, not like a fun way, next to the car. So pretty much anyone that was there anymore had crowded around that car because they were trying to see if they were gonna fight, if they needed to break something up. But one ended up climbing on top of the car and standing on top of it while the other one got in and started playing music from it. There was a subwoofer in the back of the car and all the doors were open so you could hear it, because there wasn't any music playing at that point. People were angry because there wasn't any music. Because that road was blocked by the car, no one could have driven in the direction of the Y intersection unless they had parked down there, which personally I didn't see anyone leaving at that point. And because I didn't really know anyone there anymore, I had asked my ride to take me home because I just felt kind of uneasy being there without people I knew. So I left. My ride had parked their car all the way back on the paved road, so we had to walk all the way down the dirt road to get back. While we were walking, there was a group of boys walking in the same direction as us, and my ride knew them. I can't remember why he knew them, but maybe school or something, because my ride went to a different school than me. And at the Y intersection, my ride and I went left of the car and the boys went right because they had parked that way. So a lot of kids had parked over by the water over there, and I'm guessing they were part of the big group of kids who showed up earlier in the night that didn't know where they were going, so they parked down there and walked up when my friend walked up when she showed them how. But most of the cars were up at the actual Sanctuary. So yeah, a lot of cars were actually parked up at Sanctuary because it's really common for kids to camp out at these parties, especially if they don't have DDs and they don't want to drive home intoxicated. They'll camp there instead and drive home in the morning when they're sober. So that's where a lot of the cars were. I reached my ride's car around 1 a.m. back on the pavement, and I was never passed by a car on the dirt road or saw a car on my walk to my ride. No headlights, nothing.
This is where Kiley's car was parked. According to Jane Doe number 2, she says that no cars had left between 12:30 and 1 a.m.
And I was never passed by a car on the dirt road or saw a car on my walk to my ride. No headlights, nothing.
According to Jane Doe number 2, there was a blockage at the Y intersection, which would have prevented Kiley from exiting the party. Remember at 12:36 when Sammy said Kiley had called her?
She was meant to be my ride home, but I knew she was too intoxicated to get me home. So I said, hey, I found another ride home. I hope you stay safe.
Sammy had already left. In the background of her phone call with Kiley, she said she heard voices from the party, suggesting that Kiley was not in a car yet, but still at the parking lot. All of this suggests that perhaps Kiley was alive at 1 a.m.
This interview told us a few things that we didn't know. One, it told us that she told somebody at that party, she told Jane Doe. Two, that she had a ride. And then we also learned from Jane Doe 2 that she was alive at 1 a.m., much further past the time that many of us thought she was already at the bottom of that lake.
Is it possible that maybe someone offered Kiley a ride in her own car because she was too intoxicated to drive herself?
Odd for me to hear that she stated she had a ride, which leaves me to question who was her ride. We know Sammy got another ride by somebody. Was she supposed to go with Sammy and Sammy actually literally left her? Or, was she just trying to blow her off so she didn't know? Because it seems to me like if she was that intoxicated and didn't have a ride and she was planning on sleeping there and sleeping it off, you would think that that would have been her response, not that I have a ride and then walk in the direction of the cars.
Something that stuck out to me was when Jane Doe number 2 mentioned her suspicions on this not being a drunk car accident.
I don't believe that this could have been a drunk accident. Sanctuary Road can be impossible to drive on, especially with how intoxicated she seemed when I talked to her.
And then I went to a photo that kind of had where the car came out and kind of went right into the water, and I looked at that and I was wondering, did that look natural or did it look like something more intentional? And quite frankly, I can't tell you one way or the other whether it was intentional or unintentional.
Something I am curious about is, at what time did the blockage at the Y intersection disperse? Kiley's car was only found 300 yards away from the party. The main parking was at the sanctuary, but scattered about, people had parked their cars. It just seems suspicious. How did no one see anything or hear anything?
What I find very bizarre is that there was 200 to 300 people at that party, and none of them have come forward to talk about what they seen, what they heard, what they think happened to her, because there's a lot of speculation and it's still unknown. And that's what baffles me. There's so many eyes and ears there, yet no one is forward saying anything. We don't know what happened late at that night into that early morning. We truly don't know. And I think these party goers are the key to determine what happened.
Kiley's car was not very far away from this party. So many unanswered questions.
It's starting to make this whole tow truck guy more real, his story more real, in my opinion, which many people know it was the one piece of the puzzle I was putting together that didn't fit. But this interview has given me a little more clarity. That is potential that he really did see her car at a different location.
A beautiful, talented, and intelligent soul whose life was taken too soon. If you saw something, please say something. Thanks for watching. Join my channel and become a member to hear about new information on cases I'm working on. If it wasn't for viewers like you, traveling the country with my friends would not be possible to cover these cases. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Until next time.